The elite of the Su family's core fighters are going to be wiped out. The blow and influence this brought to the Su family was too great. Moreover, in the next few years, it is impossible for the Su family to reassemble such a team. Even if it can, it will have to pay a huge cost. The cost of attracting a top master is sometimes higher than attracting 100 ordinary people. With so many top players, the cost behind them is also astronomical. What is even more depressing is that if these 50 people fall into the hands of the Japanese government, whether they are sentenced to death or life imprisonment, the Su family will have to pay their relatives a lot of living allowances all year round. This is also the core method used by the Su family to win over these masters. The reason why they worked for the Su family was because the Su family promised their high salaries, and they also promised that in the event of an accident, the Su family would pay their family members a monthly subsidy of more than 1 million. It was this kind of money spent at any cost that allowed the Su family to gather such a large number of top experts. But now, once these 50-odd people are captured by the Japanese government, their families will immediately become the oil bottle of the Su family. Moreover, the Su family must not kick these oil bottles away. Otherwise, no one will be devoted to the Su family in the future. So, this time they really have to lose to Grandma's house. At the time when the two sides were deadlocked, the head of Japan's Homeland Security Department had already flown to Osaka Airport by special plane. With him, there was the director of the TMPD. Originally, they were under tremendous pressure and carried out a carpet investigation in Tokyo. They tried their best to catch the group of murderers, so that they could give the people an explanation and the high-level officials. But what they didn't expect was that these murderers were more cunning than the foxes, and left no useful clues at all. When they originally wanted to continue to expand their search range, they suddenly received a message from a mysterious man saying that the murderer had arrived in Osaka and would return to China by plane from Osaka. This shocked the people of the Department of Homeland Security. If this group of people is really allowed to run away, this sensational massacre that caused a sensation across the country may not be broken for a lifetime. At that time, the Japanese TMPD and the Homeland Security Department will be completely thrown into the mud, and even be scolded by thousands of people. Therefore, the Homeland Security Department immediately made a decision to directly take over the case from the TMPD, and then notify the self-defense forces in Osaka to take over and prevent the plane from taking off at all costs. The Japanese self-defense force has tens of thousands of troops stationed in Osaka. Upon receiving instructions from the Homeland Security Bureau, they immediately dispatched the most powerful special forces to Osaka Airport. Moreover, the Homeland Security Department even made an emergency plan to prepare a fighter squadron. If the special forces fail to stop the private jet and allow it to take off, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces F-35 fighter jet will immediately take off, trying to force it to return to Osaka Airport and land before it leaves Japan's airspace. At this time, the special plane of the Department of Homeland Security just stopped. The person in charge immediately picked up the phone and asked, "How is the situation on the scene now? Is the other party's plane under control?" On the phone, the voice of the operational commander came immediately. "Now the opponent's aircraft is surrounded by our square-wheeled armored vehicles, and there is no possibility of breaking through, but the opponent has not yet been captured. We are already preparing for a storm." "Okay." The head of the Department of Homeland Security gritted his teeth and said, "Give them 1 more minute. If they don't surrender obediently, immediately carry out a live ammunition attack. This time we must kill these cruel desperados in one fell swoop and give it to all of Japan. The people will not care." Following his order, 4 boarding vehicles with boarding ladders slowly drove towards Sus plane from both sides. 4 combat squads with live ammunition have assembled under the plane. Once the boarding car is aimed at the cabin door, they will quickly rush up, blow up the cabin door, and use flash bombs and tear gas to conduct the first round of attack. Their firearms have also been inspected. The All-American assault rifles have very powerful firepower. Once the fire is exchanged, these Su family's subordinates have no power to parry. At this time, Ruo Li, through the window, saw the boarding car approaching. She was already extremely nervous, but she still didn't think about what to do. Someone around her panicked and proposed, "Let's open the hatch and surrender honestly." If they attack by force, the bullet will not be long-sighted. Surrender? Someone immediately scolded angrily, "Damn! I killed 4 of the Matsumoto family alone. Isn't surrendering equal to death? I will definitely be sentenced to death by then. The death penalty does not matter." Another person blurted out, "The execution cycle of the death penalty in Japan is very long. Do you know the Shinrikyo who committed terrorist attacks at Tokyo subway stations before? Their leader Shoko Asahara used sand in 1995. Lin Duki attacked the Tokyo subway and shocked the world, but he was not executed until 2018, and it has been delayed for more than 20 years. Even if we are sentenced to death, we can at least live in prison for more than 10 or 20 years. It's better than being shot to death right now, right?" "Yes." Someone stood up, clenched a fist and said, "With our strength, even if we go to prison, we can definitely become a hegemon in the prison. No one will bully us. Then we can live even in prison. Very comfortable, why don't you think about it now?" The conversation between these people immediately convinced most people. If you can live, no one is willing to give up the hope of survival. Even living in prison is much better than dying on the spot. So everyone looked at Ruoli and blurted out, "Miss Ruoli, let's surrender."